r/nuclearrevenge. Screw over your employees. Don't be too shocked when your dirty laundry starts catching up to you. So I need to keep this somewhat vague to maintain anonymity, and I wasn't there for all of it. This mostly happened to my friend, who was one of the employees screwed over, but I did what I could to help my friend get revenge. Friend of mine was employed as a barista for a coffee shop with a couple of locations. Well, the owner turned out to be a grade A scumbag. Started paying the employees with bad checks, not giving them their tips if they were paid on a credit card. Obviously he couldn't steal their cash tips, not that he didn't try, things along those lines. He was, of course, stealing from the business to fund his own lavish lifestyle. My friend was pissed and quit shortly after this nonsense started, and of course the business shortly went under. But if that's all that happened, this wouldn't fit in pro-revenge. Now, my friend was out a few $1,000s. I'm not sure exactly how much, but enough that it was a serious hit to their budget. And they weren't the only one. This creep was the classic con man, writing checks to cover the bad checks, or the delay tactics you ever see. Oh, the bank must have messed up. Just redeposit it, and of course it comes back as a bad check a week or two later. Lots of shady stuff. But he was a good con man. All told 8 people were getting screwed over too. I found out later, in excess of $20k. So one afternoon, my friend is telling me this story. How he's so sick and tired of being conned by this creep, as well as everyone else. And here is where the pro-revenge part begins to come into effect. I start digging into the business owner, all public record stuff, and some of it I learned from my friend, or their coworkers. But started to learn a lot about this scumbag. He's got multiple felonies in his past. I'm all for giving people a second chance, but this guy wasn't that old and had racked up easily a half-dozen felonies. Why he wasn't still in jail is a topic for a much different forum. One of his convictions was for being a felon in possession of a firearm. He was currently on probation for the above conviction. This is where things start getting interesting. A little more light digging, and I come up with the name of his probation officer. When I sat and talked to my friend about what I had found out about his prior employer, 2 cycles of bounced checks was enough. He happened to mention that he had seen firearms in his apartment. They'd hung out together socially before things went completely pear-shaped. He'd used his girlfriend to purchase firearms, since he was a prohibited person. Straw purchase, yet another felony. So now as things get really interesting, I put my friend in contact with Scumbag's probation officer. Turns out when you are out on probation, there's a lot of things you're not allowed to do. One of them is commit more felonies. This is an automatic revocation of your probation, and will land your happy little butt back in jail. Oh, and knowingly passing bad checks in our state for the amount he was writing them for is a felony in and of itself. 8 employees, 3 payroll cycles before the business officially went belly up. 23 felony counts of passing a bad check since my buddy bailed at 2 cycles. Repeat offense of being a felon in possession of a firearm. As if that's not bad enough, when his probation officer came a knocking to check on these allegations, he also found drug paraphernalia and drugs sufficient to get him for possession of controlled substances with intent to distribute. Multiple different drugs, so multiple counts of that too. For those keeping score at home, if he was convicted of all of these counts, he would be looking at roughly an additional 30 felonies. Easily enough to keep him in jail for a *very* long time. Now, if this were petty revenge, that's where things would have stopped. But no. You see, the state has this fund that all employers pay a tax into. It's a fund for those situations where the company goes out of business, writes bad checks for their employees, etc. And it's administered by the state labor board. So they pay out to cover the lost wages, but not the lost tips of the employees. But the state is not benevolent in this. Oh no. You see, in order to attempt to recoup their losses, they can seize company assets. And in the case of a poorly set up company with no separation of assets between the company and the owner, they can also seize personal assets. Oh yes. That shiny new company truck that you're towing your shiny new boat with, guess what, scumbag? They now belong to the state. Your bank accounts? Yeah, those belong to the state now too. Now surely, you must be thinking, surely this is now pro-revenge, right? Oh no. You see, this scumbag messed with my friend. And I don't take kindly to that kind of nonsense. You see, my friend learned throughout this process that on top of all this, his former employer was committing tax fraud/evasion. As far as the employees were concerned, they were all straight up W4 employees, meaning he was withholding the correct taxes, payroll taxes, Medicare taxes, etc. Except he was reporting to the eyes that all of his employees were independent contractors and wasn't actually withholding any taxes at all. Taxes for the company? He was fudging those so badly they should have been sold as brownies. Unfortunately for scumbag, a friend of a friend happened to work for the local ICE office, and after sitting with him over drinks one evening, found out that the ICE has a tip line for reporting tax evasion. And depending on how it's reported, well, turns out that the person reporting the tax evasion may actually get a small percentage as a reward for turning in the tax cheat. So on top of facing 30 some odd felony charges, on top of having all his personal and company assets seized, scumbag now has the eyes chasing after him. That, dear readers, is pro-revenge. I will update this as more developments come in. I can say that because this scumbag is such a scumbag, he is currently sitting in jail awaiting trial for domestic assault on his girlfriend. My friend and his co-workers have been interviewed by local police and the probation officer, as well as the ICE and the ATF, for the straw purchases of the firearms through his girlfriend. My understanding is she's made a deal with the ATF to avoid charges for the straw purchases in exchange for her testimony against him. The DA and probation officer are waiting for him to be sentenced on the domestic violence charges before they go after him for all the other stuff. That way he has to serve the sentences consecutively. As far as the federal charges, who knows when those will be filed. But my understanding is that no matter when he's charged, he'll have to serve the federal time after his state prison time and won't get any credit for time served in the state pen. TLDR. Scumbag pays employees with bad checks. I helped my friend destroy scumbag's life. Last count was somewhere north of 30 felony charges on a local level, probation revocation, as well as having the ATF and the ICE coming after him on a federal level. Steal of a psychotic Irish gypsy. You'll never be safe again. Not my story, but one I'm very familiar with. Was guided to post here from Pro-Revenge. TLDR at bottom. My town in England is rough. Very rough. There's a man that passes through every now and again who is, to put it bluntly, a psychopath. His name's Fergal, and he's a gypsy, moves around a lot, and disappears into gypsy community, and if you even look at him wrong, he might stab you. Seriously, he has killed people. He has a lot of friends in town. Drug dealers, felons, selling guns. I used to work in a shop that was owned by a drug dealer, and Fergal always came in when he was in town for a cup of tea. He liked me and always called me Butterfly for some weird reason. My boss came in the shop one day and said that a well-known scruff, he'd sell his own mother and rob the dead, who we'll call Tez, had stolen Fergal's chain that had his beloved, deceased grandmother's ring on. Fergal was fuming. Fergal was coming back to town at his earliest convenience, but before he could, Tez was arrested for trying to rob the corner shop with a rolling pin. Fergal wasn't having that. He had told everyone that he was going to kill him because there was no way to get the ring back. Fergal did what any sane person would do. He seriously assaulted someone to get arrested. He made sure it was on camera and stayed until the police got there. He was arrested and put in the same prison as Tez. Fergal managed to stab Tez in the legs, but told him that he wasn't finished. That he'd beat him so badly that he'll think he's going to kill him, but he won't. He will sometime, definitely, but he'll never know when. This was 3 years ago, and both are out. Tez has been beaten twice, and he's moved town. Fergal knows where he lives and makes sure that Tez knows. Tez's brother said that he's terrified of Fergal, and that he's scared of going out. Tez is a horrible person. He stole his mother's bank card and put her in debt with drugs, beat his pregnant girlfriend, and he left a 1-year-old in the bath alone. She barely survived and has damage to her brain due to lack of oxygen. TLDR. Steal from psychotic Irish gypsy. He'll follow you to prison, hurt you, threaten to hurt you whenever he wants, and one day that will end in your death. But you won't know when. Every day living in fear. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more.